software administration in Linux is a little bit different than Windows. In Linux, we actually install software by installing packages. And these packages come bundled with all the various files and related code that allow software to run. And we install these packages through a package manager. The package manager tool that we'll be looking at today is called apt or apt. You'll hear it referenced as like apt install and such. And there are many package managers. apt is just one of them. So this just provides a command line interface to installing software packages. And the way that this package manager works, and generally all of them the same way, is that when you are trying to install software, first it will look online through a centralized repository that's managed by Linux administrators and the community, and it determines if the package exists in those centralized files. And if it does, it will then download the package to your system, and then it will look for any dependencies. So things that are missing, like supporting code, supporting files, supporting software. And if it doesn't have those, it will also download those as well to your system. Finally, it grabs everything and puts them in all the right places inside of your system so that you can run a command on the command line like we've been doing, like running the whoami command, copy, all those various commands. Those all come bundled in initially as packages. And now conversely with Windows, where you double click an executable and all the install happens locally, you don't see any of that other stuff. So let's walk through these commands here, like update, upgrade, install, and let's get used to this on the command line and see how it differs and how Linux installs and manages software. Now, because we're dealing with administration, we need sudo permissions, very similar to user administration. So as we can see, we're going to get errors if we try to run it. But if we run sudo apt update, which is a good first command to run, what's happening here is all of those online sources that I mentioned, that centralized repository, it's currently getting the latest details. So it's trying to figure out security.ubuntu.com has this package, this other website, archive.ubuntu.com, has another package, but it's getting all the latest versions that it could possibly download if we need them. So this is always a good command to run first whenever you want to update or install software. Cool. Okay, so we can see that it completed. It says 412 packages can be upgraded. Now, you don't necessarily want to do that. And there's a reason, because if you do a full upgrade in the system, things can break. And that's a bit of the downside with package managers compared to installers of Windows. So we're not going to do a full upgrade for your system, but I am going to walk through it on my system. And that's because it'll take a very long time to do a full system upgrade from this virtual machine that you're using to the most recent, latest versions of everything. And a lot of them aren't even necessary to be upgraded. So I'm going to walk through it just to show you what it's like, but you don't need to do it on your end. So first things first, we can use a command of apt-list tac upgradable. And this command does exactly what it says. It will give us a list of upgradable packages. So that would be all the packages that we would get a full upgrade with. And as with all large outputs, it's always nice to just do a little pipe and then put into the less reader. And this way we can scroll through it at our own leisure and maybe search for things that we want to upgrade individually. And now, did you notice that command ran without sudo? Well, the apt command, you can search and you can list things as much as you need, but like administration, until you need to make changes in the system, that's when you'll need sudo. Cool. So if we wanted to also just maybe list a single package, we could do that with the apt search command. So if we wanted to search for vim, apt search vim, which is a much more powerful text editor than nano, and we're going to look at that soon. But that's how you would search for an individual package and get some information on what's available. All right, so now I'm going to walk through the sudo apt upgrade process. And it's just a matter of hitting the yes command. And once we do, we're going to embark on a very long journey of a full upgrade of the system. So as we can see here, similar to the apt update, we have a large amount of requests going out to the centralized repository links, getting all the latest packages that we had in our update list. Once everything is fetched, we're then going to see everything get extracted. And if you're watching this and you did this command, you can safely just press Control-C. Don't worry about that. You can break out of this. And if anything does break, you can always revert the snapshot of the machine. So now what's happening is that there's a database on the system, and it's being queried to determine how many files and folders are actually on the system that are installed. And after that completes, as we can see, everything's now going to unpack. So packages get unpacked. And all of this unpacking is going to happen one step at a time. And all what's happening in this unpack process is files are being unpacked from the package and put into various folders and areas on disk so that we can actually run these commands and update them to the latest versions if any of them need to be overwritten. So I'm speeding up the video here, and that actually took a long time from that earlier entry, and now we're back into the 50% area range, and I'm just going to pause the recording and then cut back again. And still going. And that's why I recommended that you don't necessarily need to do this. However, if you were building your own Linux system, then running a full update and upgrade on the system after you initially set up is probably recommended, just so that everything's the latest, greatest space. The problems come later if you try to do a full upgrade after many things have been installed and configured. That's when you can get dependency conflicts. So the earlier you can do a full upgrade, the better. And we can run a command like sudo apt update with that and operator and do sudo apt upgrade tac y. And that's a common command to just do a full update and upgrade when a system is first initialized. So now that my system has been fully upgraded, after I run a command like that, I would just be prompted that nothing will be installed, right? 0 upgrade, 0 newly installed, 0 to remove, 0 not upgraded, because I'm fully up to date. Awesome. Okay, let's keep moving. So the question can come up then of how does the package manager know where to dial out to? Well, if we do sudo apt edit sources, we'll actually be brought to the etc apt sources.list file. And you see these URLs, well, those are the links that you saw on that update and upgrade list, right? The archive.ubuntu.com and the security.ubuntu.com. If we want to get new packages that are not by default available for an Ubuntu Linux distribution, we would need to go and find new source links and put them inside of that file. But I warn you with a lot of caution, that is when a lot of problems can happen. And the reason for this is that these Ubuntu source links, they're actually managed and maintained by the Ubuntu project itself. And more specifically, it's maintained and curated by the Ubuntu developers and package maintainers. So they're finely tuned and balanced to make sure that everything lives and works well together. And if you go inside there and try to bring a source link from another Linux distribution, there could be a lot of unknown conflicts, and there might not be any support for you to get help with. That might be an issue you have to figure out on your own. Okay, so enough of all that. Let's actually use the package manager now and install some software. See what that's like. We can do an apt search, maybe for a fancy calculator, like apt search calculator. And that's actually a lot more calculator listing than I thought. And I'm actually not familiar with a lot of these calculators right here and what they might and might not do. So I think what I will do is I'll go ahead and search for a new package that I know is easy to install and easy to demonstrate installing software without any unknown problems. So let's go back to the command line and search for a software called Zim. And I actually just realized I hit apt search sim, but you know what? I think it's going to work just the same. So it actually gave me Zim. So a little typo, but it worked all in the end. So let's do sudo apt install Zim. Okay, now we'll hit yes, and all the packages will be reached out to be downloaded and installed, just like before. Awesome. That's it. That's installing software in Linux. If you know what you need, you search for the package and you install it. So let's run Zim on a new terminal now. And we can just hit OK with the default prompts. It's just asking for a default directory for notes. And cool. So here we go. We've actually installed a new Zim text editor. So this is a more feature-rich text editor than the previous one installed. So we can put in some fancy text here and give it some more additional formatting and whatnot. And now I'm going to close it and reopen it again in the command line just to demonstrate something, that if we have a terminal program running and we close the terminal, it'll close the application that we try to run from it as well too. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's go and remove Zim now. We don't actually need it. Let's walk through this process. And there are two ways that we can do this. We can do a sudo apt remove Zim, and I'm just going to hit Control C here to go to the next line just to demonstrate. And we can also do sudo apt purge Zim. And they do two entirely different things. So let's take a look inside the man page and see exactly what it states for us that these two do differently. All right, so we can see inside here that there's some text saying that if we remove a package, it removes all package data but leaves usually small user configuration files behind, just in case it was removed as an accident. Now, on the other hand, purge gets rid of everything. So let's go and purge Zim. Let's just completely remove it from the system. And note on the uninstall process, it'll actually tell us the packages that will be removed. So that's good to pay attention to in case you made a mistake. Now we'll walk through it, and it's basically the same as the install. So as you can see, package management is actually really simple with Linux. There's a centralized repository where we download and install what we need, and then we remove when we don't need it. And it's all pretty quick. Again, the only problem comes when you start to mess around with things and you get dependency conflicts. But that is for much more advanced scenarios, not something that we have to worry about at this stage in the game.